Dear colleagues, on behalf of the university administration and the academic staff, I wish all the participants of the symposium every success in identifying new, constructive strategies for educating and upbringing young people in a global polycultural world. Cultural heterogeneity of student population in contemporary educational institutions causes educators to make decisions crucial both for an individual and society as a whole. Should they make allowances for cultural diversity and differences, or should they maintain neutrality or just ignore them? Educators working within the framework of humanistic pedagogical paradigm believe that not only should modern school lean on cultural differences in teaching and upbringing, but view them as a cultural asset essential for young people's personal development. In many countries, this task is relegated to multicultural or polycultural education. In Russia, the strategies of polycultural education have been developed since the end of the 20th century. Among the first scientists who began investigating this urgent problem in mid-1990s were the researchers from Pyatigorsk State Linguistics University. In 1997, with the support of Russian Humanitarian Science Foundation and the Academy of Pedagogical and Social Sciences, our university hosted the first all-Russian conference on the problems of polycultural education. Well-known scientists and educators such as Arutyunov, Bondaryeva, Malkova, Sabatkoyev, Tishkov, in cooperation with the researchers from other regions of the North Caucasus and the rest of the Russian Federation, developed a strategic course for solving polycultural education problems. In 1999, in accordance with the recommendations passed at the conference, we, together with Malkova, designed and published the Conception of Polycultural Education in Modern Russian Secondary School. In 2003, in cooperation with Davidov, the conception of polycultural education in high school was developed. In the past years, the ideas of polycultural education have been developed on theoretical and practical levels, which is proved by a large set of investigations analyzing problems and achievements in this area, both in Russia and abroad. These are contributions by Balitskaya, Bessarabova, Gukalenko, Jurinsky, Dmitriev, Hakunov. The ideas of polycultural education are successfully implemented in the schools of Yekaterinburg, Izhevsk, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Krasnodarsky and Stavropolsky Krais, and in different educational institutions in many other republics of the Russian Federation. At the same time, in the course of developing and implementing the ideas of polycultural education, many teachers faced theoretical and practical difficulties, one of them being related to the definition of the concept of polycultural education. Several terms for this phenomenon are used in contemporary Russian pedagogy: polycultural education, multicultural education, polycultural upbringing, intercultural upbringing. In our view, the concept of polycultural education appears to be more suitable for the approach adopted by Russian researchers. In this context, polyculturalism reflects taking into account both foreign innovations and positive Russian traditions concerning the content and process of education. The choice of the term polycultural education instead of upbringing is conditioned by the fact that in state regulations of the Russian Federation, education is regarded as a purposeful process of upbringing and teaching in the interests of individual, society, and state. Thus, polycultural education should embrace not only upbringing but also techniques of teaching youth in conditions of cultural diversity. At the same time, comparative analysis of publications by Russian and foreign scientists, Banks, Golnik, Grant, Nieto, Jurinsky, Dmitriev, Gukalenko, Malkova, and my personal experience of educational practices in schools of Russia, India, Mongolia, US, South Korea, allow me to identify a number of similar features reflecting the essence of this phenomenon. Firstly, the systemic characteristics of polycultural education result from the fact that it aims to create conditions for developing skills of intercultural communication and interaction in students as a prerequisite for their successful self-realization in a culturally diverse society. Secondly, teachers try to make quality teaching and learning accessible and equitable for all students, regardless of their gender, socioeconomic class, language, religion, exceptionality, as well as race, nation, and ethnicity. Thirdly, pedagogical community seeks to cultivate in youth respect and tolerance towards other cultures. Polycultural education in many countries is based on the ideas of multiculturalism. The process of implementing these ideas in the world community is complicated and contradictory, and not always successful, to be honest. On this ground, some politicians state that multicultural policies failed. However, we consider that the point is in the weakness of conceptions and strategies of liberal multiculturalism, which either proclaim ideas of tolerance and political correctness or seek to solve all the problems, social included, basing only on ethnic personal characteristics. At the same time, it is important that an individual be viewed not only as a representative of an ethnic group, but as a bearer of several identities, because in reality, a person is a point of intersection of several cultures: ethnic, religious, social, professional, gender, and age. For all this, not in every country ethnic identity has been regarded as a determining cultural characteristic. We think that in Russia, multicultural ideas should be creatively developed with due consideration of existing cultural reality, specific nature of Russian mentality, and native traditions of teaching and upbringing rising generations, which can provide a basis for theoretical grounding and practical realization of polycultural ideas. First and foremost, we should base on traditions of interethnic upbringing. In multinational Russia, there always has been a special focus on cultivating in youth respect for other cultures as a necessary condition for personal development and maintaining the nation's integrity. Before October Revolution, advanced educational scholars implemented this task through coordination of people, state, and orthodox values. The Soviet Union had a big valuable experience in building interethnic relationships and developing skills of interethnic communication in young people. The interethnic upbringing, however, had class nature, as was aimed at shaping in school children a sense of friendship and cooperation between peoples of brotherly socialist countries and solidarity with proletarians of all countries in their struggle for communistic ideals and against imperialism. The reality of the 21st century, shaped by fundamental political, economical, and social transformations, requires the adoption of new approaches to the teaching and upbringing of young people. One such approach is polyculturalism. In our view, the tradition of interrelated implementation of patriotic, interethnic, and moral education, which existed in the Soviet Union, is also important for polycultural education. This integrated approach to the youth upbringing, though politically biased, allowed cultivating in young people such qualities as patriotism, civic consciousness, and internationalism. The content of such education was related to strategic goals of ethnic and cultural policy of the state and was aimed at understanding by school children the importance of national unity of peoples of the USSR, the priority of national interests over ethnic interests, cultivating love of the people and the native language, and the development of readiness for social activity. However, if we analyze programs of moral education in modern Russian schools, we will see that many of them only rest upon traditions of Russian culture. Why is it so? We live in a multinational state, and almost in all schools there are representatives of different ethnicities among pupils. Ignoring by schools and universities cultural values held by students is often regarded by them and their parents as disrespect for their ethnic group. In the regions where individuals from the same ethnic groups live in close proximity to one another, Kabardino-Balkaria, Tatarstan, Udmurtia, and other republics, the ideas of ethno-pedagogy have been traditionally used in education and the upbringing of the young. It should be noted that in the Russian Federation, ethnic cultural practices play a particular role in shaping personal cultural identity. Ethnicity is a social and psychological phenomenon that is produced and reproduced over time. Values, norms, and beliefs, traditions, and customs are passed down through generations in a given cultural community, belonging to which provides psychological security and a better sense of self. Underemphasizing the role of ethnic culture in education can cause the increase of social tensions and nationalistic attitudes in larger society. However, overemphasizing ethnic factor can result in ethnocentricity, which manifests itself in acts of hostility between groups of ethnic youth. Another very important but often neglected tradition of polycultural education is the upbringing of a young person as a group member. Multi-ethnic school body can provide a model of polycultural society based on principles of tolerance, respect, and cultural consciousness. Such school environment helps youth learn how to interact with people who are ethnically, racially, and culturally different from themselves, to constructively manage interpersonal conflicts and rid themselves of negative cultural stereotyping.